The Rise of Skywalker marks the very end of the sequel trilogy and the Skywalker saga itself by J.J. Abrams, Chris Terrio, and even creator George Lucas and everybody else involved with this movie in order to wrap up this massive saga that started back in 1977. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future content. Now today, we will be going over 15 Easter eggs and references in The Rise of Skywalker. We will be explaining quite a number of them in greater depth about what goes on in the actual movie and everything in relation to those Easter eggs, and of course to those references in The Rise of Skywalker. Now do keep in mind that we will be going into spoilers. If you guys have not seen the film, I do highly suggest that you guys go ahead and exit out of this video right now. Until you have seen the movie, you guys can go ahead and return here and actually watch it from point A to point B. But without further ado, let's get right into this. Now, the first Easter egg that I really want to go over that I think is going to be something that a lot of fans are going to enjoy is, of course, the Wayfinder, which is said to be an old Sith Holocron that dates back decades ago that was modified by Darth Vader to a route that would link its way over to the unknown regions. Now, we get a glimpse of the Wayfinder in the very beginning of the film when Kylo Ren is invading that strange red planet when he's searching for a device that once was owned by his own grandfather, Darth Vader, that is said to lead to, of course, Palpatine's location that Kylo Ren discovers at the very beginning of the movie. Now, everything about the Wayfinder, it's said to be taken from parts of an ancient Sith Holocron. Now, this Sith Holocron dates back many years ago, even many years before the Phantom Menace. And that's a very interesting aspect of the story, is that at least we got more holocrons in the film. Now, I want to go over another segment that is a nice callback to something that the hardcore fans will really enjoy, is the cloning chambers. Now, the snow cloning chambers are a direct reference to Star Wars Dark Empire in Legends, when Palpatine made clones of himself in the comic series in the mid-1990s. Now, originally there were Palpatine clones, however, the canon version involves Snoke clones at the very beginning of Episode 9 that Palpatine created. So this is obviously a callback to what was done in the Dark Empire series, where Palpatine is able to come back to life by using essence transfer and going into different clones of his body. Now, the third one I want to go over is, of course, Luke Skywalker's X-Wing on Octi with Yoda's theme as the Force Ghost of Luke lifts it out of the ocean of Octi. This was JJ giving a callback to The Empire Strikes Back. Now, for those of you who have seen the movie, obviously this is a callback to The Empire Strikes Back, showing us what Luke could not do during the events of The Empire Strikes Back when he was on Dagobah. So that's a very interesting scene because a lot of fans are pretty much, puzzled over it as to whether or not it is either fan service or a parallel or just directly copying, The Empire Strikes Back. Honestly, it somewhat connects to what was done in The Last Jedi, where Rey takes a glimpse at the X-Wing and sees it underneath the water of Octi. Moving on, the throne room of Palpatine from the second Death Star at the very end of Act 2 of the film, and Palpatine's old throne. Now, the trip to Palpatine's throne room, again, was an original treatment by George Lucas for Episode 7 that was never used, and even Palpatine's brand new throne in the movie is based off of a 1981 sketch by Ralph McQuarrie for Return of the Jedi. Moving on to number 5 here, the iconic and emotional scene between father and son, Ben Solo and Han Solo, where Ben is about to say, "I love you," but doesn't. Han Solo says, "I know," which is a throwback to what Han says in Empire Strikes Back. Now, like I've always said before in the past, this movie's going to have its emotional moments in the film, it's going to have its highlights without a doubt, and we have actually gone over, many aspects of the film where Disney could have done a lot better, in fact, far better than what they could have done in multiple parts of the movie. However, this particular scene is said to be by far the most emotional segment of the film. Moving on to number 6, 3PO mentions that droids are programmed not to be able to translate Sith to a Senate ruling, which is no doubt a reference to the Old Republic era. Back in Star Wars Legends canon, the Republic and the Sith Empire went to war on multiple occasions, in case you guys did not know this, and when it seemed their enemies were gone, it would make sense that the Republic Senate would not want people uncovering secrets about them, hence the ruling. So that's another nice little throwback, another nice little reference and or Easter egg, if you will, to, of course, the Old Republic era. Number 7, the Jedi voices of the past that include the Force Ghost voices of Luke Skywalker, Mace Windu, Ahsoka Tano, Yoda, Kenobi, Luminara, Aayla Secura, Anakin Skywalker, Qui-Gon Jinn, Kanan Jarrus, Adi, and others, all of which are listed in the credits of the film. So, all of them are listed in the credits, the Jedi voices of the past. These are all a part of the movie, including Qui-Gon Jinn, surprisingly. It's very hard to hear him because all the Force Ghost voices are mixed together, so that's one thing that's going to be very hard to actually point out. Moving on to number 8 here, Palpatine delivering the line, "The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities, some consider to be unnatural," which is a callback to Revenge of the Sith. Palpatine tells this to Kylo Ren in the beginning of the film. Now, one of my favorite lines of all time is, of course, that particular piece of dialogue that was said by Palpatine in Revenge of the Sith back in 2005. A lot of fans loved that line, and it really just grew on them. So J.J. Abrams once again wanted to reintroduce that into the actual movie to explain exactly how he is alive in an indirect and vague way. Now, number 9, one part of the film that involves a scene where Finn, Poe, and Chewie are playing a game of Dejerick. So in case you guys have no idea what Dejerick is, that is the little chess-looking game board thing that you do see on the Millennium Falcon that projects holograms. We've seen this in Star Wars A New Hope, we've seen this in The Force Awakens, and other films out there, such as Solo: A Star Wars Story. So the game of Dejerick actually makes a return in the movie, which is a callback to the originals and other films out there. Number 10, John Williams. In case you guys did not know, he plays a cameo in the movie as a composer on the world of Kojimi, and also singer-actor Lin-Manuel plays a Resistance member in the film. Moving on to number 11, when Rey and her friends travel to Pisana, C-3PO examines a festival that is happening. This celebration only happens every 42 years, according to 3PO, a direct reference to the legacy of Star Wars that started 42 years ago. Honestly, I will say that's one of my favorite Easter eggs in the movie, is that they're giving a reference to how long Star Wars really has been around, I should say, 42 years ago. Alrighty now, so moving on to number 12, when Rey begins to use the Force to force grab the ship, taking Chewbacca prisoner, it's said that J.J. Abrams got this idea from the famous Star Wars video game, Star Wars The Force Unleashed, in which Starkiller uses the Force to take down a Star Destroyer. So J.J. Abrams got the idea from that video game, Star Wars The Force Unleashed. Number 13, Wedge Antilles appearing during one of the major battles by Dennis Lawson. Now, Wedge Antilles, very, interesting character because he's been around with us since Star Wars A New Hope. He only had a little voiceover role in Rogue One: A Star Wars Story, but it's so nice to see him in the flesh of this movie, actually guiding through one of the major battles in the film, having a couple of, cockpit sequences in the movie. Moving on to number 14, during the celebration at the end of the film, we cut across many planets, where we come across Ewoks that seem to be on the forest moon of Endor. Once again, a nice little callback to that of Return of the Jedi. Number 15, alright? Rey's yellow lightsaber is a callback to the Sentinels. In the Clone Wars, the Temple Guards typically wielded yellow double-bladed lightsabers. The lightsaber that Rey developed is based on a part of her staff if you look closely. The end of the film even features a moment in which Rey takes a piece of metal and slides down to Luke's original home on Tatooine, the Lars homestead, a direct callback to Star Wars A New Hope. And when she does that, when she actually slides down the sand using that piece of metal, it's also a nice little callback to Star Wars The Force Awakens, where she does that on Jakku. So there you have it, guys. I just want to list 15 Easter eggs / references of the movie that are callbacks to previous Star Wars films and previous Star Wars canon material and lore that really stands out, as well as the legacy of Star Wars and how there's a couple of callbacks to that as well. I think that my favorite one is the 42 years thing that's said by C-3PO, to be honest. And yeah, I would like to hear what you guys have to say about this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.